saw yesterday. And I'm going to be hard with the truth today. I'm not saying this because of us. I'm saying this because of our democracy. It's time we stop making this a demonstration of grace. All the legal minds have spoken about it extensively. The last state of emergency had in this country, in fact, I think it was the National Assembly that called the attention of the president to that you don't need to suspend the governor. And it was kept in place. Most of the legal, analysis that have come out of Section 305 keeps faulting what the president has done. But you see, this case is peculiar because, please, you will humor me to think that this National Assembly will be able to call the president to order when they need to vote on it, when they need to get 2/3 on it. This rubber-stamp National Assembly, this National Assembly that can't even investigate a case of sexual harassment, this National Assembly that is so high-handed in its own regard towards its own members. Is it this National Assembly? If you believe that this National Assembly will go ahead and make a strong footing and make a strong showing against President Tinubu, then you will be so gullible to think that osmosis is the name of a Turkish footballer. Not this National Assembly. Because they met yesterday with the president, the principal officers, before this was agreed. So it's a political ploy. Coming to the part of unfairness, I saw a lot of half-truths in the president's speech yesterday. Fubara has not made attempts to ensure that the Supreme Court ruling was implemented. But we saw when he went to the House, we saw the game the legislature in Rivers State had been playing. We saw those games. But the president was not fair in the first place because he took sides with Wike. And that's why the likes of Atedo Peter started asking, is there anything more between President Tinubu and Wike this morning? He can't call a spade a spade. He can't call Wike to order. The same President Tinubu did not see where Wike was threatening the Ijaw ethnic nationality and say, what would they do? The same President Tinubu didn't see all of this. But anyway, what do I expect? It's under President Tinubu's watch that we had 2 speakers in Lagos. It's under President Tinubu's watch we had a disarray in Osun State House of Assembly. You've had political suicides everywhere. But in all of this, he heaped all of the blame on Fubara when we know the real actors in this matter. And like Ebon Adegboruwa was saying this morning, it was part of a grand ploy. Let's call a spade a spade. It was part of a grand ploy. The idea was to remove Fubara in the first place. So they had looked for ways. Why was it that all of a sudden, it was yesterday that they served the impeachment notice, that they wrote out the things Fubara had done, and then the president read out the state of emergency. And when you check the state of emergency speech, most of the things enunciated in the state of emergency speech were the things the lawmakers had enunciated in Rivers. So why did it happen all of a sudden? Fela sang a song many years ago. He called it Power Show. I open my eyes and I see for my country. Power show. But please, people that do the power show must remember power is transient. No matter, even if you do 8 years, it will not be there forever. Isn't it shocking that the same president that condemned state of emergency, that was a hero then, has now reneged on everything he condemns? All right. It's a sad day for democracy.
All right, Dr. Bati.
Okay, very quickly. Let me first comment from an interpretation of the Constitution, which the president himself highlighted. He said he was acting within the purview of Section 305 of the Constitution. Section 305 of the Constitution explains the circumstances under which the president shall declare a state of emergency. And the conditions are properly stated. If the country is facing a threat of war or imminent war, is Nigeria facing the threat of war in Rivers State? That's one question. It also talks about, a situation whereby something could happen in any part of the federation where, Nigeria could find itself in a chaotic situation. The president is required to act. Number 3, where the governor in that particular state does not immediately respond, to the crisis situation and does not approach the president to act in the national interest. So those conditions are properly spelled out. However, that same section 305 says that the president, will give a proclamation which will be gazetted, and then will go to the National Assembly. And the National Assembly, if it's in session within, I think, 48 hours, would act. If it's in recess, within 10 days, will act. If the National Assembly does not consider that particular proclamation, gazetted proclamation, valid, then it will vote otherwise. 2/3 majority of the two houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. And if that happens, the decision is abated. Okay? Now, the other relevant portion of the Constitution is Section 188. Section 188 of the Constitution spells out how a governor can be removed from office. A governor cannot be removed from office by the proclamation of the President of Nigeria. It can only be removed if there is gross misconduct, as put as an allegation by the House of Assembly, and then the CJ is advised to form a panel of reasonable people, people of distinguished qualities in the state. And if that panel now decides, within the purview of Section 188, that those allegations are wrong, that puts an end to that process. Who advised the president? The people who advise the president must be called to order. Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, is a very distinguished lawyer. I don't understand how Lateef Fagbemi, SAN, arrived at this advice. And I also say that retired Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, if he's a patriot and a citizen, he must reject this appointment, making him sole administrator of Rivers State, because it is a wrong appointment and his own integrity has been called to order. Whatever may be the motivations, he must act as a citizen and issue a statement forthwith to say that he will not be party to the violation of the Constitution. Now, what argument are they putting up? It has been said that, Obasanjo did this when he was president. After all, he removed Dariye in Plateau, he removed Fayose in Ekiti. Look, at that time, Akinolu Jimi, SAN, who was Attorney General, was relying, I think, on the 1960 Constitution. The explanation that he offered, that the 1960 Constitution and the emergency, the Declaration of State Emergency Act of 1961, allowed the federal government to remove a governor or remove a legislature. Now, it was wrong. Because at the time he was making that statement, with due respect, the operative law in Nigeria was, either the 1999 Constitution. So Akinolu Jimi saying it was 1960 Constitution, 1961 Declaration of Emergency Act, was just using political expediency to justify the illegality that President Obasanjo engaged in. And people who are quoting the Obasanjo president must realize that an armed robber cannot say that because one armed robber got away with it, so you also have a right to commit armed robbery. That is wrong. The second point that I would like to make, again with due respect, is that people have been referring to the Jonathan period, that Jonathan declared a state of emergency in about 3 states of the Federation, Adamawa, Borno, I think Yobe. Now, that argument has been settled by Mohammed Bello Adoke, who was Attorney General of that time, in his book, The Burden of Service. I don't remember the specific pages. But as a reviewer of that book, I reviewed that book on the back page of this. I recall that Mohammed Adoke argued that there's nowhere in the Constitution that the president is empowered, that's 1979, 1999 Constitution, that the president is empowered to remove a sitting governor or remove a sitting House of Assembly. And that was why under President Jonathan, no governor was removed, No deputy governor was removed. No state house of assembly was sacked. No local government chairman was even removed in those 3 states. So the people who are just making argument about president, no, they are speaking out of ignorance. And I recommend Adoke's book for them to find that explanation. Having dealt with the legal framework of this conundrum in which we have found ourselves, yesterday, I wrote a piece, back page of this day newspaper, in which I said President Tinubu should take charge of the situation in Rivers. I was reminding him of the crisis in the Western region, First Republic, the Wild Wild West, 1962, the crisis between Adigbenro and Akintola, and when Tafawa Balewa, appointed Majekudumi as sole administrator. The 1960 Constitution allowed Tafawa Balewa to so act. But I said President Tinubu should not allow history to repeat itself. I expected that in intervening, even despite the fact that there have been violations of the pipelines and Joe Youth Congress is saying they will sabotage Nigeria economically, I expected President Tinubu to still act within the province of the law. And that's why I say he has been misadvised. And I think Vice Admiral Ibok Ite-Ibas should not take this appointment. I also think that the National Assembly should reject this proclamation if it is so presented, and not act within its reputation as a rubber stamp National Assembly. The president should be properly advised so that we can have peace in this environment.
That's the watchword, peace, and that's why the president has said he has had to take this very difficult decision to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State in the interest of peace and to promote law and order. In terms of the National Assembly, they have said that they'll be meeting today to deliberate and to whether pass the motion or not. All eyes will then be on the opposition. We have to remember that the APC has a very small margin of majority in both houses, in the House of Representatives and the Senate. So let's see if we will now hear the voice of the opposition loudly as their leaders have come out, including Atiku Abubakar, Chief Bode George, the PDP in itself have come out to condemn this move by the president, saying that it is unconstitutional. Absolutely. The NBA has also written an initial response to the declaration of a state of emergency, also saying that it is unconstitutional, citing the reasons given in Section 305 of the Constitution as not having been met, questioning whether or not Rivers State is in that state where it would fit into the areas that have been determined for declaration of a state of emergency by the president. But I think, just to clarify something, Dr. Bati, Vice Admiral Ibas, the president had said that he would not be able to make laws, but regulations that will be subject to FEC approval. So it's the regulations that Vice Admiral Ibas makes that will be subject to approval by the FEC.
No, the FEC is not a lawmaking body.
Yeah. So he
the
said
president
regulations.
is biased.
Yeah, well, okay.
I
So
agree
let me
with that
talk
view,
about bias.
that he's
Yes.
biased.
So in terms of being biased, yesterday, a number of people criticized that speech by the president, saying that, unfortunately, a lot of the things he said, and I think, Ufa, you already alluded to this, were put at the doorstep of the governor. That's Governor Fubara, saying that despite efforts he had made to try to bring parties together, Fubara hadn't made any attempts. But the statement released by Governor Fubara this morning actually